Hello and welcome to Against the Storm patch 0.59, the Hauler Station update. Our last update was, of course, the Sealed Forest update, and it marked a fairly big milestone for the development of the game. And as such, they invested a lot of time into it, and so I'm suspecting they didn't have as much kind of in the works leading out of that update 2 weeks ago, and leading into this update. And so this is a smaller update than we've seen in the past. Other than this one new major feature, minor feature maybe even, it's just really a bunch of small changes, tweaks, and enhancements to existing things, which doesn't surprise me. The sealed forest biome and all the work that went into it was huge. I was significantly impressed by the way that the seal worked, and the whole system around it. That was really good, and they've made a few changes to the way that worked, but largely it doesn't change from what we saw in that last town. So let's go ahead and jump into the patch notes, take a look at the Hauler Station, as well as the additional updates in this, additional changes in this patch, and then we'll be ready to start a new town beginning tomorrow as I record this, or as I release this. So the Hauler Station is, of course, the new major component in this update. There are two Hauler Stations, a big one and a small one. You can see the big one here as the center point, or mostly the center point, on this screenshot. The big Hauler Station is a blueprint that you can purchase from a trader, and once you pass level 5, I believe is what it was. I'm not seeing it now, of course. You can... It adds it into your blueprint selection for your blueprint choice with reputation. So the Hauler Station serves as a way of having shared workers that can transport resources to and from production buildings. And the advantage of this is that those workers in the production buildings don't necessarily have to stop working to deliver the goods they've produced, or to collect new additional materials, therefore making them even more productive. One of the things that this building does not have that would be an interesting addition is it would be nice if you could specify which buildings you wanted them to prioritize, which nearby buildings you wanted them to prioritize. At the moment, it just sees the buildings in range, but I don't think there's a prioritization option there. It's just listing them. The buildings that are in range that need ingredients, as well as the buildings that are in range that produce goods. But we'll see. We'll have to see, what that actually looks like once we get into it. So the large the large Hauler Station, the one you can see here on the screen, has 3 worker slots, and it has a range of 10 fields of which buildings that, in those 10 fields, those buildings can be supported by the workers in this building. Comparatively, the small Hauler Station, which is only findable in small glades, as a rebuildable structure there, rebuildable structure, only has 1 worker slot, and only has a range of 8 fields. Both buildings, definitely the large one, but both buildings, I believe, are movable, so you can move it to the spot in your town where it makes the most sense, which is good, because a Hauler Station in a small glade that you just opened, that you don't have anything near, any productions near, doesn't really help you any. So you can move them. The big Hauler Station costs 4 planks and 4 bricks to construct, so while it costs something, it's not a ridiculous amount. There it is. The big Hauler Station blueprint is unlocked after reaching level 12. That means that it appears as one of your choices in the blueprint selection from reputation, and probably also from the smuggler. But you can purchase it from a trader if they appear in the trader's choices, of course, anytime before that. And then, of course, the small Hauler Station can be found anytime in small glades as a rebuildable object. They've also changed around, so that basically is the gist of the hauler station. I don't think there's anything else in like their explanation of it. It's really just a very straightforward thing, and I think it'll be helpful, especially in your medium to large sized towns. It's not gonna be that useful at the very beginning, I don't think, but as your towns get bigger, having some universal workers means that maybe you don't need as many workers in a particular production building, because the reason you have them there is because of the downtime required for hauling. So if you have some people dedicated to hauling, well, then maybe you don't need the dedicated or the extra workers in those buildings, and you can put them into a shared building to where they can also support other things. They've moved around a few of the upgrades in the Citadel upgrade tree. We can actually go into that if you would like and take a look at those. Down low here, upgrade. There's a new upgrade added to the beginning of the dim square branch, which is these aren't labeled. That's one of the weird things with this. I don't remember which one dim square is. Down here, there it is. The last one that I had to click on. Level 2, yes, level 2 dim square is now starting resource of planks. That was moved over from the brass forge. Level 2, which was here, and the reason they did that was to allow for the mine upgrades to be an option to be unlocked here in the tree. And they felt that that was necessary because new players may not know that the mine upgrades exist, and or they may be inundated by new things as a brand new player and not know and not know that they don't need to do anything with those right away. It gives you one less choice of something to do in the very early game for a brand new player, and then later on it gives you the ability to opt into it when you're ready, which is a really nice thing. I think we'll see what the community has to say about it, but I think that they'll that's a nice thing to have. That way you're making an active choice for that. And then, so dim square was pushed up a little bit. Maybe not every single one, but at least some of them were pushed up another level each, so that this is at a little bit higher level up here in the dim square. So it was added into the dim square down here, not swapped in for something else. But obviously the mine upgrades were swapped in for the plank resource. There was one other thing I thought. Yes. Rich Glades Cornerstone is now unlocked at level 2. So way down here, which it used to be at level 12. And level 12 is now, level 12 now includes the big hauler station, as we mentioned earlier. So while we can't really see that here on my screen, the levels as you upgrade, as you add them, you'll now get Rich Glades. Rich Glades Cornerstone is unlocked way earlier, which is also kind of nice for newer players to get earlier. Other than, level 2 versus level 12. As we mentioned earlier in this video, they made a few changes to the way the Ancient Seal works. For example, the Essence of Corruption objective, which we had, that's the one where you have to burn a certain number of Blightrot cysts, has been changed. Now you have to burn more of them, but it is a retroactive count. So any cysts you burn throughout your town up to that point, as well as any more you burn, count toward that particular objective, which makes it a little bit easier, I think, in general, even though they added 10 more to the count. I think it was like 18? No, it was more than that. I can't remember how many it was. It was a lot. Now it's more. But it also lets you count a lot more, which we didn't have before, which is really good. There might have been one or two more of those that I thought could use a retroactive effect, but they haven't added any other retroactive effects there. The storms are no longer doubled in Viceroy. There was a lot of feedback from the community on that one, and it is a very hard step to make from veteran to viceroy to say, well, now your storms are going to be 4 minutes long. With all the other things, the more difficult effects, the additional hostility multiplier, the harsher force mysteries, harder orders, those types of things. That's what makes Viceroy harder, not doubling the storm. So, the storm has not been moved back to where it was before. I can't remember what prestige level was at before, the double storm. It is now at prestige 2. And all of the effects from prestige 2 upward have been moved up a level, with the exception, or up to level 11. The effect for prestige level 11 was merged into prestige 1. So there's a new combined effect at prestige 1, increased reputation cap and order difficulty. And I think that's more fair. The additional order difficulty at prestige 1 gives you a good jump there into the prestige ladder, and of course it already had the increased reputation cap. For those of you who aren't watching the regular series, we're going to start a prestige run. I don't know how fast we'll climb the ladder, but we're going to start a prestige run with this next town in the mainline series. So if you're interested in watching that, stop by and join us for the premieres, of course, and also you can also watch on YouTube anytime after. With all of this, there always are some UI, UX improvements. For example, the move button has been moved. On every building that has a move button, you can see that new move button here on the big hauling station. It's now a tab that sticks out from the frame as opposed to a button in the corner of the frame. So it makes it maybe a little bit more obvious that this building is movable. Because I'm suspecting it pushes down the character... the character selection, the villager selection in that, in those buildings. I suspect there's not that extra space empty there at the top of the buildings that aren't movable, but we'll have to wait and see when we start the next town. They changed a whole bunch of wording, of course. One thing that they changed that I really like is they changed how cycling through events works. So the arrow buttons next to the event name no longer just cycle you through, say, from medium cache to medium cache to medium cache. They now cycle you through to medium cache to large cache to medium cache to medium cache to small cache. They cycle by type rather than by name, which is mega improvement, because I had always managed to lose one or two, it seemed like, caches, and forget that, I have some of different sizes, and then I wouldn't see them, or I'd have to hunt around the map for them. This way we can scroll through all the caches at the same time. We can scroll through all of the glade events, like danger glade events, if you have more than one of those active at the same time. Those types of things, you'll be able to scroll through the category, the type, rather than just the name, which is really, really useful. The ore depleted alerts have been changed thanks to the moving of the mine upgrades. So now, since mine upgrades are no longer part of the game to begin with, when your ore is depleted and you don't have the mine upgrade, you'll get an alert that says the mine has no available ore. If the ore is depleted, but you do have the upgrades unlocked, or in the first case also if you've upgraded it all the way already, but if in the second case, if it is depleted but you can upgrade that mine, then it will say upgrade mine for more ore. That way it reminds you that, hey, I can do an upgrade here, which is really nice too to have. And the ore tooltips will show the full number of charges with all upgrades applied now, which they didn't before. The numbers here in the upgrades tree, or the tiles here in the upgrades tree, should now show a red box if we are unable to upgrade to that. So we'll see that when we start the next town, and we did pick which ones of these we want to do, because we'll eventually spend the stuff we have, and then we won't have the ability anymore to purchase those. So we'll definitely be looking for that when we do the upgrade purchasing in the main series. And the upgrade window automatically scrolls to the point where you last unlocked something. Or maybe the last point you were in, if you're opening and closing it like I'm doing right now repeatedly. Before, it kept like restarting down here at the bottom, which is no use to anybody who's gotten past the bottom. So jumping up here to where you were last working is a nice QOL improvement. There's been some improvements for Steam Deck play as well in terms of readability and user interface, user experience type of things. So if you play on Steam Deck, take a look out, or keep an eye out for those changes. The buttons that are in the upper corner of the gameplay will match the order of the buttons that are here in the tabs now. There's obviously not buttons here, but there's the different tabs in the gameplay, but those are now corresponding as well. So that's a nice little UI/UX enhancement. Beyond that, there's a whole host of bug fixes, many of which I don't know, I've never seen, or I've rarely seen, but they always have bug fixes included. If you're interested in any of those, make sure you take a look at the patch notes. If you had a bug and you wanted to make sure it was fixed, those types of things. And finally, some new sound effects have been added, as they've been working a lot on sound design lately, music as well. So new sound effects added, and then they have also added some new randomly generated town names. So if you are like me and you don't name your towns each time you embark, they were selected from a fairly small sample set of town names. They've expanded that set of town names. They're tied into the lore of the game, and they are translated into all supporting languages. So maybe they're more like action words rather than names, or words that exist other than names, so that it makes sense to translate them into other languages. Finally, they shared the what the final major update is going to be. They don't have any specific dates or details, but the next big feature, which I think is the final big feature, is guidance and lore. So this is all revolving around the meta layer of the game, the part that we play here in the world map and in the Citadel before we actually start a new settlement. And they're going to be fleshing out that part of the game as it works with guidance and lore. No more details than that in the patch notes, but it's there to help give players a more clear sense of direction, and to give us more of a sense of world building, which is always fun. I like having lore and such in games, so it'd be really nice to have. But I think that's it. This was even though this was a small patch, this was a fairly long patch note video. If you have any thoughts or feedback on that, by all means. But I think it's worthwhile to kind of talk about all of these things and make sure that they make sense to those of you who don't like to read the patch notes, or who may not be may have a reason to miss things in the patch notes, and sometimes having something read to you or explained to you is useful. So if this is useful to you, let me know. Let me know if you have any feedback on how to make it more useful, how to make it better. But I hope it is useful. We started doing these when the Steam update, the Steam release happened, and separating them from the main episode. Before, we used to just read it during the main episode. And I think that's useful too for those who don't want to watch it, don't want to hear my commentary on it, because then you don't have to. So yeah, feedback is always welcome in the comment section, or come to my Discord, or you can chat with me during any of my premieres. And we will see you all in the next video. Thanks for joining me. Bye for now.